I just want to apologize, guys. In this video, I was going to visually record me. However, my OBS was being unintelligent, for lack of a better word, and decided not to record even though it said it was. So I would have had some video of me, but instead I'll probably just show some images. My voice recorded, however, the video did not. So I apologize for that. Hopefully I can still get the point across in what I was saying with just audio, but we'll see. Next time there'll be audio with video, I promise. Life as a Character Performer, Episode 1. Alright guys, so I'm starting a new series that I'm going to, over time, expand. It's, some of you may not know this about me, but for a good 12-ish years, I worked at Six Flags. I won't say which Six Flags I worked at, but I worked at Six Flags, and I was the Looney Tune, or the Looney Tunes, plural. I was various Looney Tune characters. Basically what this series is going to be about is me going through my 12 years that I worked there, what all happened, various stories, most funny, some sad, some outraging. But yeah, basically I'm going to go through and try and share my memories and experiences of being a character performer with you guys, because I know that's something that people don't really talk about a lot. In a lot of cases they're not allowed to. I know Disney is very strict. With their property. A lot of their character performers can't, tell people anything about any of it. Looney Tunes, while we work there, we're definitely not allowed to discuss who we are, what we do, etc., etc. But I've been out of the character performer scene for a little bit now, and I feel comfortable sharing my memories and experiences with you guys. Bear with me with this series. Hopefully you'll learn something. I mean, especially if you're interested in being a character performer. My last year, we had somebody come in that was a cosplayer who made fursuits, and so this was a dream come true for them. I never was a cosplayer or anything like that, never got into the fursuits or anything like that for fun. I just did it for work at Six Flags, but in turn it was fun, and I got paid to do something that was a blast. I got to be a Looney Tune. That was the coolest thing ever. So this is episode 1. I'm gonna tell you guys how I got started, what all happened, how I got to be where I was at Six Flags. How I got my job as a Looney Tune character. For you guys to understand the full depth of this experience for me, let me start from the very beginning. Growing up, I lived with my mom and my stepfather. I would visit my dad and stepmother on the weekends, or every other weekend, but the weekends that my mom had me, if Six Flags was open, we would go to Six Flags on the weekends. Now growing up, that was a huge thing. This is before video games were as popular as they are now. This is way before cell phones. Computers weren't really big on gaming like they are now, etc., etc. This was back in early 90s, like 92, 93. My mom would take us to Six Flags on the weekends, me and my older brother. And while I loved the roller coasters, my brother really loved the roller coasters, I was more into the theater scene. They had shows at Six Flags. We would always go during the Halloween month, October, for their Fright Fest event. I loved it. I loved seeing the Halloween shows, the costumes, the performing, the singing, the dancing. That was my thing. I was big on theater growing up. I think it was 1996 was the first year I told myself, this is what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be a Six Flags performer. I want to be in the shows here for Fright Fest. Something else I loved about Six Flags was the Looney Tunes. I loved the Looney Tunes show that they had there. My favorite Looney Tune was Daffy Duck. Always. Growing up, me and my older brother would watch Looney Tunes at home on TV when it was dinner time, and Daffy was just my favorite character, absolute favorite character. He was crazy. He always tried to one-up Bugs. He had no regards for his own safety or anyone else's safety. It was always about him. He wanted the spotlight. That was Daffy. I loved Daffy. So moving on, the year is 2006, and I'm looking for my first job. I decide I want to try out for Six Flags' Fright Fest event and see if I can get something as a scare actor. At the time, I didn't know they were called scare actors. I just thought it was, just an actor scaring people. So there were auditions for Six Flags' Fright Fest in 2006. I applied, and I got an audition interview. So I came in not knowing what to expect, dressed very nice. It was my first job. I had no job experience, no interview experience, no nothing. I didn't know what to expect for something like this. A supervisor pulled me to the managerial office and interviewed me. It's been so long I can't tell exactly what she asked me. Just some really basic stuff like, what's your favorite horror movie? Can you scream for me? So I screamed. Then she asked me, how is your improv skills? And at the time, I wasn't big on improv. I mean, I liked the concept of that. I thought it was cool and would be fun to do, but I never had improv or anything. So she asked me how my improv skills were, and me not wanting to mess up this interview said, I'd say they're okay. So she asked me if I would improv as a futuristic cop trying to scare somebody in the park. I did not know how to improv as a futuristic cop trying to scare someone in the park. So at this point it got really awkward because I tried to improv it just by kind of staring at her, giving her this weird stare, walking towards her slowly, staring her down and walking away, and it was awkward. And I think she picked up on that. So the next thing she told me to improv as was a zombie. I was like, oh yes, okay, here's what I can do. And she's like, thank Billy from the Sanderson Sisters movie, Hocus Pocus. I was like, yes, I can do this. I know I can do this. So I was basically stumbling around, acting like a goofy zombie who couldn't talk. So that pretty much ended the audition. She said they'd be in touch if I was offered a position, etc., etc. So I went home. I didn't hear anything for like a week or two, and I was bummed. I thought I'd blown it. That the stupid futuristic cop walking through the park thing ruined it for me. However, not too long after, I got hired. I was offered a position as a scare actor, as they call it, which is the walk around. Basically, during Fright Fest, if you see the monsters walking around the park, not in the haunted house, but in the park walking around, I got hired as a scare actor. I was stoked. I was excited. That's what I wanted to do, and that's how I got started at Six Flags. So my first day coming in, we came in like a couple weeks before the park opened up officially for Fright Fest, before the characters were even going out in the park. So we got like 2 weeks of training. I came in, they taught us a little bit of makeup, how to do some makeup and stuff. They gave us our characters to kind of go over, which I got paired up with a lovely gentleman named Brandon. Brandon, if you're watching this, I appreciate everything you did for me and teaching me back then, because that opened my eyes to a lot of things in this kind of field. So Brandon was very cool and relaxed, and me, with this being my first job and not wanting to mess it up, I was very stiff and nervous and all that jazz. But me and Brandon were two mad scientists that walked around the park. We really didn't know how to make it scary, because all we had was like 2 lab coats, some weird makeup that had like veins and stuff. What did they give Brandon? They gave him something. I think it was like a big syringe. And they gave me a clipboard with a pen and paper. They didn't tell us anything to do with these items. They just said, make it work. And Brandon was like, okay. So, and now keep in mind too, Brandon, his hair was, sides were shaved. He had a mohawk, but it was combed over because he wasn't allowed to have extreme hairstyles at Six Flags. So he had a combed over mohawk. So yeah, we were basically told we were mad scientists, go around the park and do mad scientist type things. No direction other than that. So Brandon was like, okay, we'll see what we can do to make this crap work, alright? Just play off me. I was like, okay. The opening night, we went out. Brandon's walking around with this big needle, this big syringe thing, going up to people. And as you can guess, people are looking at it, making all kinds of lewd comments about it, and asking him where he's going to stick it and all kinds of stuff. While I'm being shy because this is my first night, I have a clipboard in front of me with that pen and paper, and I'm just like pretending to write stuff to keep myself looking busy. I don't want people to see that I'm nervous and shy. Maybe a couple hours in, that nervousness kind of went away. So during our break, me and Brandon got to talking. Brandon said, Matt, I don't really think this whole scary thing is going to work out for our characters. I said, yeah, we're not really even scary. We just have like lab coats. I have a clipboard and pen and paper, and we've got veins on our face. I don't know what's scary about us. Brandon said, alright, for this next walk, let's see if we can make it funny. Follow my lead, alright? Okay. So we go back out. Brandon, something I neglected to mention was that he was trained at breathing fire. So this next walk we go out. He's got his stuff to breathe his fire. We go out in front of one of their theaters before a show starts to kind of entertain the audience. He whispers to my ear,
hey, get everybody to stand back. Get them all kind of back away from me because I'm about to breathe fire and I don't want to burn anybody and get this park shut down. And I'm going to be screwed. You're going to be screwed. And the park's going to be screwed. Just get everybody back.
So I moved everybody back, and I told them there's a hazardous chemical spill. But I was trying to get everybody back. So he did his thing. He took in some of the gasoline or whatever he had in his mouth, and he breathed fire, and everybody was excited. Everybody clapped. Everybody loved it. And he breathed fire like maybe three, 4 times. And I think it was the third or fourth time that he did it. Basically, he singed his eyebrows off. Yeah, it was just funny. I guess he kind of had to be there. So we walked around, just started kind of goofing off. We weren't really being scary or trying to be scary anymore. We were just kind of acting silly towards people, making all kinds of funny jokes. Towards the end of this first night, I had a couple of ladies come up to me and ask,
"What's on your clipboard?"
And I told her, well, nothing as of yet. I haven't gotten any interesting notes to jot down yet. So these two fine young ladies said, well,
"Here, I've got something interesting for your notes."
I was like, okay. So I gave my clipboard and the pen. They gave me their phone numbers. Two beautiful women and their phone numbers. Keep in mind, I was that awkward, quiet kid in school who never got chicks. So for me, this is a big deal. So Brandon looks at me, he says,
Did you just get 2 numbers?
I go, yeah.
Dude, we got to talk on our break.
So we're still out there. I get maybe 3 more numbers from women. Because after other women see that people have given me their numbers, like, oh, I want to give you my number too. I'm just like, keep it coming, ladies. Keep it coming. All the while, keep in mind, I'm not breaking character. But in my head, I'm just like, yeah, go ahead. All yours. So I'm trying to keep character while all this is going on. We go back in from a break, and I put down my clipboard, and it's first page is filled with number after number. Brandon looks over at it and says,
Dude, don't call any of those.
and I was like, why not?
Trust me, don't call
But,
any
but,
of them.
all right. So I didn't. I didn't call any of the numbers. I wouldn't understand why he told me that until several years later. So as the month carried on, we tried to do everything we could to be entertaining and funny, which is hard to do when you're not scary and you have nothing really to work with. They eventually took his needle or syringe because of all of the comments he was getting about it. About halfway through the month of October, I got bored. I started chewing on my clipboard. Don't ask me why. I got bored. I had nothing to do. I got bored. I was trying to be weird and awkward because I was a mad scientist. I was trying to play the character up. So I started licking on my board and chewing on it. After maybe an hour or two of doing this, the clipboard, now keep in mind the clipboard was made out of wood. So after about an hour or two of doing this, the clipboard got soft enough where I was licking and chewing it at that I could break it off with my teeth. So Brandon's over there talking to some chick.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah. Mad scientist. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right? Ha.
Yes, like so totally crazy. You're so cute, you little mohawk.
I'm over there like chewing up the clipboard. Got big hunk in my mouth that I had just broken off for the first time.
Yeah, so, you see my friend over there? He's crazy too.
I spit a huge chunk of clipboard in between Brandon and this chick. Brandon didn't know what to say.
Did you just spit clipboard at us?
It was the funniest thing and most weird thing that anyone had ever seen. Brandon, after we went on our next break, said,
Dude, you've got to keep that up. That is the funniest thing ever.
alright, but I don't know how long this clipboard will last.
Doesn't matter. Work it as long as you can.
Alright. So I did. By the end of the night, my clipboard was a nub. Like it was just the clip at the top that was metal and there was no wood left. So as the night was over, they would ask us, what do you guys need for tomorrow night? What needs to be fixed? What needs to be replaced? Brandon raised his hand and told them what we needed.
Matt needs a new clipboard.
Why does Matt need a new clipboard?
He completely chewed his apart.
What?
Yeah, he chewed up the pieces and spit them at people.
I'm not even gonna ask. We'll get you a new clipboard.
So they got me a new clipboard, and sure enough, I did the exact same thing the very next night and got it down to a nub. So as the night progressed and it ended or whatever, and they asked us again, what do we need replaced and fixed?
Matt needs a new clipboard again.
Why does Matt need a new clipboard again?
He might have chewed it up and spit it at people again.
So they got me a new clipboard for the following weekend. They were pretty certain that I wasn't going to be able to chew and spit up this next one. And the reason they were certain of that is because they gave me a metal clipboard. Believe it or not, I put that thing in my mouth and kept it in my mouth for so long that the metal slowly started to bend. So after it took a whole weekend, but after the weekend, I'd gotten that thing down to pretty much what the wooden ones were. And Brandon just he was like,
Your teeth are gonna be so messed up.
I was like, yeah, no kidding. I feel fine, but I'm sure this is gonna bite me in the butt years from now. It didn't. It didn't bite me in the butt once. So by the end of that weekend, I gave him my clipboard. It was all messed up, and Kathy, that was her name. Kathy was the one who was fixing our stuff and getting us new stuff and getting me new clipboards. She just looked at it and just said,
Look, you're just got to keep that one. I can't give you any more clipboards.
I was like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. I understand. So I never got another clipboard, and I just had to know for the rest of the month. So that pretty much covered, for the most part, my first year of Fright Fest. And I know that's not even really anything to do with the character performing aspect of it all. But I'm getting to that, I promise. So the season was over. We all said our goodbyes. It was great. I had a blast. It was a great first job experience, a great performing experience. I loved it. Wouldn't trade that memory for anything in the world. Spent Thanksgiving, Christmas with my mom. The following year, I got a letter from Six Flags asking if I would come work for the next season, this coming season, which was the season of 2007. And I was like, yeah, sure. I don't know what they'd have me do. I know they don't have scare actors all year round, but sure, why not? So I told them I would be thrilled to come work for them again. So in March, I think it was, I came in for the whatever it was I was applying for. I didn't really know what I was applying for or getting myself into. So I went there. We went into a back area, and they sat us down. There was a good handful of us. They put us down. We were going through character training. Didn't know anything about characters. I knew I loved the Looney Tunes, and Daffy was my favorite character of all time. Didn't know anything about being a Looney Tune or a character performer at all. Just from what I had seen growing up at the park and loving the characters and seeing how they act and seeing Disney characters and stuff. They walked through all of the Character 101 training. They had a great guy, his name is Melvin. He came in and taught us a lot of interesting stuff. Showed us how to interact with people, with guests, as a character. And ironically enough, his first job was being a Looney Tune. He was Foghorn Leghorn and Bugs Bunny. Somebody saw him as Bugs Bunny and said,
Hey, I want to hire you to be the mascot of this basketball team.
and that's how he ended up getting where he was. Melvin got an amazing career out of doing what he did at Six Flags. Anyways, long story short, they start to tell everybody which character they are and which character they're going to be trained as. So they get around to me. In my head, I'm thinking, I'm too tall for Daffy, as much as I love him, which I really was too tall for Daffy. I was 5'7". Well, still am 5'7". There's no way I'm going to be Daffy. I have no idea who I'm going to be. But they got around to me, and sure enough, as luck would have it,
Matt, you're Daffy.
I cannot tell you the amount of joy that rushed through my head. Growing up and seeing Daffy in the show for all those years, I'd never thought I would be in costume being Daffy Duck and entertaining kids. It's like a full reversal. Like, instead of me going there and watching them being entertained, I'm going to be entertaining kids. I was so stoked and excited. So I was trained to be Daffy, the walk-around Daffy, the street Daffy, which is, the Daffy you see in the park, not the Daffy Duck that's in the shows. Had a blast. I will definitely say I did not realize how good I had it in Daffy till much later in my years at Six Flags, which I'll cover that in another video. But I did not realize how good I had it as Daffy, being my first character. Daffy is, without a doubt, the most comfortable and easiest costume there is out of all the Looney Tune characters. You can move around the most freely. You can see the best. You can see pretty much everything if you know what you're doing. And it is definitely the least hot. So I got lucky by getting Daffy as my first character. This being my first job and not wanting to screw it up, well, technically my first job, Six Flags being my first job as a whole, I busted my butt in costume as hard as I could. In a good way, not like I fell, but I busted, I worked hard. From the moment I stepped outside in front of everyone, I never stopped moving. I was always taking Daffy to heart as a character. I know Daffy's crazy. I grew up watching him. I knew how crazy he was. And so I applied what I saw on the cartoons to Daffy in real life. So I would go up to kids, would mess with them, take their hats, put it on my head, spin it backwards, put it back on them. I'd do all kinds of crazy stuff. But I will say I learned very quickly just how hard work it is being a character performer. Our character walk was Bugs and Daffy. We'd go out for 30 minutes, come in for 30 minutes. We'd start at 9 a.m. in the morning, I think it was, and be done at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. Yeah, something like that. I know my first year there was 4 shifts of characters. There's so many Bugses. Because Bugs and Daffy went out back to back. So once we would go out at 9 a.m. and come back in at 9:30, another pair of Bugs and Daffy would go out from 9:30 to 10. Then we'd go back out from 10 to 10:30, and then they would go back out from 10:30 to 11. We had a lunch break in there. I can't remember exactly how long our days were back then, but it was a blast. But it was a lot of hard work. We had to walk from basically every walk. We had to walk a mile. I'm not kidding you. We walked a mile to get to the front gate, and then a mile back just to get to our back area. So that took up the majority of our 30-minute walk right there. So that was like 12 minutes to get down there, 12 minutes back. I mean, we were only down there for like 6 minutes before we had to head back. But it was a blast. I wouldn't trade those memories for anything in the world. As the year progressed, I was getting all kinds of good comments from supervisors and guests in the park. How great Daffy was being, how funny Daffy was. I would think of anything I could do to make myself entertaining in Daffy. I remember taking spoons, plastic spoons, out of a restaurant and going outside the restaurant and being on a trash can, making music with plastic spoons as Daffy. And people love that kind of stuff. People love getting attention from the characters, even if you're messing up with them, picking on them. They love that kind of stuff, and it's entertaining. It makes them laugh. I remember one character walk. I went up and jokingly tried to take this couple's pizza, like I was going to take it away and eat it. And their reaction threw me off so hard because it was literally like half a pizza, half a huge thing of pizza. It was like a half a whole pie. And they said, "Take it. We don't want any more. Take it." And so I grabbed the pizza, ran off with it, ran backstage with it. I didn't want to mess anything up at my job, so I didn't eat it or anything. But I gave it to a person in the back area to do whatever with. As much as I wanted to eat it, but we weren't allowed to eat park food like that. So summer had started, which meant that we went from working just weekends to like full weeks. No, maybe this was actually before summer started. Maybe this was spring break that I'm thinking of. Can't remember exactly when it was. But one of these time frames, I got fired. My first full season year, I got fired. And the reason I got fired was because I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. So long story short, we weren't allowed to go off property during our lunch breaks. We had like 30 or maybe it was 45-minute lunch breaks. We weren't allowed to go off property to eat, is what they said. You're not allowed to go off property to eat food. The person I had made friends with, Jeremy, he was my Bugs. His cell phone was about to get cut off. He needed to pay it that day because we'd been working every day because of it being spring break or the beginning of summer or whatever it was. He needed to pay his phone that day, else his phone was going to be shut off and he'd have no way, and it would have been just a bad turn of events. So I had a car at the time. I mean, it was my mom's car, but it was a vehicle that I was using to get to work and back. And I said, "I got you, Jeremy. You know, I'll give you a ride up the street. We'll pay your phone. We'll be right back in no time." So that's what we did. We rode up the street, paid Jeremy's phone bill, came right back. We missed our whole lunch break because we were taking care of his phone bill. That was his only means of communication. So if he lost his phone, he just needed to get his phone bill paid. We pay his phone bill. We get back to the park. The employee parking lot, there's a little box where security can sit. In this box, we saw our head supervisor at the time. She was basically managerial, but she wasn't like the department manager. She just had this sad look on her face. So we park and start walking on the hill, and she grabs us and says,
"Come with me."
We got fired. And the reason we got fired is because we were told we weren't allowed to go off property for a lunch break to eat. So what had happened, we found out, was the entire department had went off property to eat. Someone had snitched and said that the entire department went off property to eat. So we kind of got drugged down with the rest of the department that actually went off property to eat. Granted, obviously we realized we shouldn't have went off property at all. But we got fired, and it was not a good feeling. I asked my mom, "What can I do? There's got to be something I can do to fix this." My mom said, "Write a letter. Explain the situation, explain that you would never have intentionally done anything to jeopardize your job, etc., etc. Let them know the truth." And so I did. And sure enough, after them firing me, me sending that letter, a week later, they called and offered me my job back. So when I came back to work, the few people that hadn't gotten fired, when they saw me walk through that door, they looked at me like I was a ghost. They're like,
"Matt?
I was like, "Yeah?"
I thought you were gone. I thought you were fired."
I was like, "I was, but now I'm back." Lo and behold, not only did my letter save my job, over half of the department got brought back. I feel like it was kind of the thing where they realized that they couldn't bring just one person back and not bring the others. And two, probably because, I mean, it was half the department they wiped out. They realized, oh crap, what have we done? We need to bring them back. We all got our jobs back. And the rest of the year worked out fine, just like nothing had ever happened. Halfway through the summer, I was showing a lot of promise with my performing as a walk around Daffy, to where they started to teach me how to do the Looney Tunes show they had going on as Daffy and as the host of the show. So I got to be outside the costume hosting, which was fun, as well as inside the costume as Daffy. It was a lot of fun, and one of the nice perks was you got paid a lot more in the show than you did as a walk-around character. A walk-around character was like $8 or $8.50 at the time. The show character was $10. Back then, you got paid $10 for 8 hours no matter what. You had to sign a contract. You got paid for 8 hours, even if it rained out and you had to go home an hour after working. You got paid for 8 hours guaranteed. It was great. Now, I think around the time of July, they started doing the Looney Tune parade. I think it was 5 o'clock, the 5 o'clock parade. The funny thing about that was we had so many guests in the park come up to us and ask,
Hey, what time is the 5 o'clock parade?
the 5 o'clock parade is at 5 o'clock.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes.
Alright, have a nice day. But I got to be Daffy in the parade, and that was a blast. When they put me in the parade, they just took me to the back area, said,
Stay here. We're going to bring the float. You're going to get on the float. That's pretty much it.
I was like, okay. So, a few minutes later, a gentleman walks up to me, Joel. I did not know him at the time, or know of him, or who he was, or what he meant to the park, or anything like that. But his name was Joel. Walked up to me and said, basically what he wanted was, he came up to me and said,
Daffy's crazy. During this parade, a song's gonna come on that Daffy sings. I want you to jump off the float, go crazy, jump on flower beds, walk on stuff you shouldn't be walking on, go crazy. You got me?
I was like, I got you. I'm pretty sure, because all the characters, aside from me being as crazy as I was, were pretty docile and calm, and you could tell they were people in a costume moving slow and didn't want to be there in the heat. Which with me, I was always crazy and energetic, and you couldn't get me to stop. I was like on crack. So when Joel told me to go crazy, in my head I was thinking he was going to regret telling me to go crazy. So the parade starts, all the music's going, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what song I'm waiting for or anything. All of a sudden, the parade floats stop, and a Michael Jackson song comes on. Jam, and Daffy singing it. Holy crap. The adrenaline rush that came through me as I leaped off that float, happy as crap, yippee skipping, jumping on the flower beds, jumping on the walls, hitting trash cans, leaping over kids. I probably shouldn't have been doing that. I had so much fun. It was just my moment to shine in the spotlight as a character. I was getting in people's faces, singing to kids, singing to adults, looking back at bugs, sticking my tongue out at them. It was so much fun. I will never forget how much fun I had that first parade. So my song ended. I got back on my float, finished out the parade. We did a meet and greet with kids at the end. Parade was over. Finished out the day like normal. Then the following day, I come into work, and my supervisors say,
Matt, Joel left this for you.
I was like, what? Joel had got me a gift basket because of how great a job he thought I did. In the gift basket, it had a lot of things like candy and a cup, but it also had, if I remember correctly, he got me a couple of gifts over the years. I think it was like a Daffy earring, or maybe it was a Daffy pin, not an earring. It meant a lot to me that he recognized that I'd given it all I had, that I made Daffy come alive. So I guess I'm going to end this first episode with that because I think this episode has been going on for a long time. The next episode I'll probably talk about our 4th of July parade in downtown where I live and how some crazy stuff happened with that. There was a lot of stuff to tell with that. Trust me, it's going to be funny. I promise. You're going to laugh your butt off at this next story. But yeah, so anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this first episode. Sorry if it was kind of boring, but the other episodes will be better, I promise. The only reason this one's dragged on for so long and may seem kind of boring is because I kind of had to tell you guys how it all began and started for me. But I promise you, I have so many funny stories that you guys are going to laugh your butts off to. If you are interested in being a character performer at Disney, at Universal, at Six Flags, go for it. It's so much fun and it's so worth it, especially if you love to entertain people. You get so much from it. You really do. Basically get paid to be in a big furry suit and mess around all day. Please subscribe, like, if you want more. I plan on doing at least maybe, gosh, I don't know how many videos in this series, but I do plan to keep this series going for a little while until I run out of memories to share. So if you like it, if you want to know more of what it's like to be a character performer, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll answer any questions that you guys have. Any question. Nothing is stupid. Nothing is out of bounds. Ask me anything. Alright guys, till the next video. Take care.